We all have traditions in our lives. You probably have Christmas traditions that are sacred to your family. Or maybe your traditions look like going to the same restaurant to celebrate an anniversary every year, or going to the same beach town every summer. Our traditions are so ingrained into us that they even become a part of our everyday lives. You probably have a ritual of how you get ready in the morning. Many of us will buy the same kind of product over and over on the premise of tradition. Our traditions also spill into our spiritual lives, affecting the way that we view God and His text. Every denomination has specific traditions that come with a list of do's and don'ts. It might be a particular way of worship or a specific process of experiencing a ritual. While neither are right or wrong, we tend to hold to that way of doing things, and to do otherwise would feel kind of strange or even to an extent wrong. What's interesting is that if we take a glance at church history, we will see that churches have divided, even warred over traditions. Now, before you stop liking me because I want to take all your traditions away, your traditions are perfectly fine. If they help you deepen your faith with Jesus and expand your ability to love God more and love your neighbor more, then those traditions are right and beneficial. But let's move into the text today and see what Jesus has to say about incorrect traditions. You see, some of the Pharisees and the scribes are upset because Jesus' disciples, they aren't doing what is customary and normal. They aren't washing their hands before they eat. Now, wait a minute. Doesn't a teacher tell her first grade class to make sure you wash your hands before you eat? Isn't that a good thing to do? Well, of course it is, which tells you that the Pharisees and scribes, they're attacking something deeper than being concerned for personal hygiene. The word they use is koinanao. We translate it as defiled. The true meaning is to take something sacred and holy and to make it common or declare it something unclean. So they're not going after hygiene here. They're actually stating that the ritual of washing your hands is a holy act. And the disciples choosing not to do that is making a holy act common. That sound a little bit strange to you? We probably need to clarify another statement that was said just a few lines before. Why do your disciples break the traditions of the elders and not walk according to it? We might pass over this and assume that the traditions of the elders interact with the laws of Moses. They actually don't. They are taking something that isn't holy, the washing of hands, and making it holy by human standards. You see, as Judaism began to routinize and systematize, certain Jewish elders of the faith constructed specific ways for carrying out certain laws. Let me give you an example. The law told them not to work on the Sabbath, that it was a day of rest. But He didn't give them specific instructions on just how to do that. So they, being very godly people and wanting to obey God with everything, came up with what's called a Sabbath day walk. They took the distance to the farthest tent would have been from the tabernacle and counted the steps, and to them, it became a tradition that you could only walk 2,000 paces on the Sabbath. Is that wrong? Not necessarily. It's a way to honor God. But is it law? No, it's an interpretation or a tradition. So these traditions of the elders became plentiful, and they became so ingrained in the everyday custom that they were treated as law. Jesus calls them out on it in the commandment to honor your father and mother. In this instance, the tradition actually causes a person to break an actual commandment of God. So in the end, their objection to the disciples not washing their hands because it was a holy act, it holds no water in the actual law. The disciples aren't doing anything contrary to the law, and Jesus picks up on that and turns it back onto the accusing party. And from this, we get some very harsh words from Jesus. See, He quotes Isaiah and says, "The people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. In vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men." He'll go on to show that defilement can't come from something external. It only comes from the sinful nature of our flesh, from making the holy things of God common. Defilement comes from us. But who is us? Isaiah is talking about those pagans, right? Those people that say all the right things but don't believe. No, the individuals are those that in vain worship me. So they're believers. They're ones that worship with their voices, their words, maybe even their bodies, but have no true worship in their hearts. So let's look at our own lives. Where have we allowed tradition to dilute the power of God? Are we ones that show up on Sundays, professing to be believers, but live the rest of the week for ourselves? Have we put God in a box where we get him out anytime it satisfies one of our needs? See, God is calling us to greater things. God has a better life for us all, and it comes when we open our entire lives to him. Where we open every closet, every desire, every fear, and every talent and say, God, I am yours. You see, a little bit of Jesus here and there won't satisfy. But when you go all in, those things that would have defiled you from within, they disperse away. Because what is left is true identity in Christ, that he who is within you will be the one that makes you righteous. Instead of washing your hands, let's wash our hearts and wait and see what God can do not only for us, but with us in this world. Are you ready to be uncommon, undefiled, someone that's different than the others that people gravitate towards? If so, break the traditions of apathy and boxing Jesus in, and get clean to discover a life that truly matters.